Why did she stop crying? Marcus Thorne's voice cracked, tangled in fear and confusion. It was a red-eye flight from New York to London. For almost an hour, Lily's cries had echoed through first class. Annoying, yes, but at least it meant she was alive. Then suddenly, silence. A silence so heavy, so chilling, it made Marcus's heart plummet. He looked down. Lily's tiny body was stiff, her eyes rolled back, her breath shallow and broken. No, this can't be. She's not breathing. Is there a doctor? Someone please help, Marcus shouted, his hands trembling as he clutched his daughter. Around him, passengers froze in confusion. Flight attendants hesitated, and no one moved fast enough. Out of nowhere, a teenage boy from the economy shot forward like an arrow. Give her to me. His voice was firm, decisive. Who are you? Marcus panicked, tightening his grip on Lily. Without waiting for permission, the boy pulled her gently but swiftly into his arms, kneeling on the cabin floor. He laid her on her side, checked her mouth, and cleared her airway. Every movement was precise, practiced, calm. Yet to Marcus it looked brutal. How could anyone put their daughter down on the filthy carpet? It was unthinkable. Seconds later, Lily jolted and let out a faint, fragile cry. That sound, thin but alive, rippled through the cabin like a miracle. Relief washed over the passengers, but not Marcus. He lunged forward, yanking his daughter back, his voice booming. What did you do to her? Don't touch my child again. Security! Whispers spread like wildfire. Dozens of eyes turned toward the black teenager still kneeling on the floor. At 35,000 feet in the middle of the night, he had just saved a life. And yet why did everyone look at him as if he were a kidnapper? The plane was still mid-journey, the cabin lights in first class dim and soft, but Marcus Thorne felt no peace. He held Lily tightly, his heart still racing out of rhythm. She was dozing off, her fragile breath faint but steady, alive at least. He should have felt relief. Instead, one question kept hammering in his head. Who was that boy? And how dare he lay a hand on my daughter? He glanced toward Jamal, who had returned to his seat in economy. Marcus's eyes held no gratitude, only suspicion. Leaning toward the head flight attendant, he muttered, Check on him. I want to know everything. Some kid from the economy rushing up and grabbing my daughter. Unacceptable. Minutes later, the attendant returned, hesitant. Sir? His name is Jamal Carter, 17, one of the U.S. representatives for the International Mathematics Olympiad. Marcus raised his brows. Math Olympiad? Surprise flickered for a second, then was quickly smothered by deeper doubt. Math? A math kid who suddenly knows medical procedure? Impossible, he thought. There must be something off. Beneath it all, his pride had taken a hit. He was Marcus Thorne, a tech billionaire, a man used to commanding, controlling. And yet moments ago, in front of everyone, he'd been so powerless that a teenager had to act. Meanwhile, back in the economy, Jamal slumped in his seat, backpack clutched to his chest. The whispers around him cut like needles. Someone muttered, That kid's got guts. Another whispered, Creepy. Just snatch the baby like that. Jamal tried not to listen. He pulled out a worn photo, the edges frayed. His little brother Malik, wide dark eyes sparkling, a child's grin frozen in time. Jamal brushed a finger over the face, his chest tightening. No one knew, the skill wasn't natural. It was scar tissue. He remembered those winter nights when Malik seized in his arms, Jamal murmuring step-by-step first aid through trembling lips. He remembered his mother's sobs when medicine money ran out, and the countless times they nearly lost Malik, just for reaching the hospital too late. From his bag, Jamal pulled a notebook. Between epsilon-delta proofs, derivatives, and integrals, messy scrawls filled the margins. Brainwave frequency. Threshold 39.5 degrees C. Drug reaction. 12 minutes. He whispered to himself, as if swearing an oath. Not just math for exams. Find the pattern. Control the chaos. For others, math was numbers. For Jamal, it was survival, the only way to keep family alive. The next morning, as the Boeing descended into misty Heathrow, passengers stirred, gathering bags. Through the crowd, a voice rang out, Carter! It was Alex Vance, in a designer coat, striding forward like he'd stepped off a magazine cover. Heard you put on quite the show in first class, Alex sneered, his voice loud enough for people to overhear. Trying to win Thorne's sympathy? Too bad. They don't score acting at this competition. Jamal clutched his backpack tighter, silent. Alex wasn't finished. His eyes flicked to the notebook sticking out, scribbled with strange symbols. Oh, math and medicine? Waste your time on this nonsense, and you'll never beat me. My father hired MIT professors to tutor me privately. Every word landed like a blade. Jamal wanted to answer back, but pressed his lips shut. Malik's voice echoed in memory. Don't let them throw you off, Jamal. Still, anger and helplessness roared inside him. Alex smirked and walked off. Yet in his eyes glimmered more than scorn. It was greed. He didn't just see a difference. He saw weakness, and Alex Vance had never ignored an enemy's weakness. The plane touched down, wheels skimming the wet runway. Amid the crowd leaving customs, a middle-aged nurse in uniform walked straight to Marcus. Her voice was steady, certain. Mr. Thorne, that boy did everything right. Lying her on the floor was the only way to protect her airway and brain. Without him, your daughter would be in danger. Marcus froze. Heat rushed to his face, as if he'd been slapped. He really saved her, he stammered. Without question, the nurse replied. You should thank him. Marcus nodded stiffly. Inside, his pride cracked, a tower collapsing by chunks. The man who was always right had publicly accused an innocent, worse, the very person who had saved his child. In the terminal hall, Marcus spotted Jamal in a corner, phone pressed to his ear. The boy's voice trembled yet burned with resolve. Mom, don't forget your medicine. I'm fine. I will win. I have to win. The prize money will cover the surgery. Marcus halted, stunned. Those words cut deep. In an instant, Jamal was no longer a suspicious stranger, but a boy fighting for his mother's life. This competition wasn't about glory. It was about survival. Marcus swallowed hard and stepped closer. His voice softened, awkward but earnest. Carter, I owe you an apology. I panicked. To make it right, I want to sponsor your entire education, no matter what happens in this competition. Jamal looked up. His eyes, heavy with exhaustion, carried no joy, only wariness. You don't need to make anything right, he said slowly. And I don't need your pity. Marcus flinched as if struck. He extended a hand, but Jamal turned away, tightening his grip on the backpack and walking on. Inside Marcus, a sharp question lingered. Are there scars money can never mend? For a man who had always believed wealth could fix everything, this was the first time he felt the limits of his power. So then, can an apology and a check erase wounds carved by prejudice? Or will they only widen the chasm between two worlds? 2 days after landing in London, the first day of competition finally began. That morning, in a brightly lit exam hall, hundreds of contestants sat in neat rows with thick stacks of papers in front of them. The silence was so absolute you could hear the faint roll of a pencil falling off a desk. Jamal sat in the back row, his shirt slightly wrinkled, making him stand out against the crisp uniforms and tailored jackets around him. He could feel the eyes brushing past him. The black kid with the old backpack. They didn't need to say it. Jamal heard it in his own head. I don't belong here. But this exam, this belongs to me. He inhaled deeply and opened the test booklet. Long chains of equations made other contestants frown, but to Jamal, they were like a familiar heartbeat. He didn't see dry symbols. He saw waves, like the brainwave patterns from Malik's seizures flickering on an old hospital monitor. He picked up his pencil. Instead of writing standard textbook proofs, he sketched spirals, connecting fragments into a coherent model. It was strange, unorthodox, but unshakably solid. One judge whispered to another, "This boy, he's not solving it the way we know. But it's correct, and it's beautiful." When the provisional scores flashed, Jamal was at the top. The room erupted in murmurs. Alex Vance stared, his smile frozen. He bit his lip, muttering, "No way. That kid beat me? Impossible." Yet the truth was clear. Jamal hadn't just surpassed him. He had shaken the entire hall with a mind unlike any other. That night, after the grueling first day, the hotel corridors were hushed, golden light spilling across the carpet. Jamal stood by his room door, phone pressed to his ear. "Mom, I'm fine. I promise. Tomorrow I'll win. We'll have the money for the surgery. Don't worry, just keep taking your medicine." Just a few steps away, Alex leaned against the wall, pretending to scroll through his phone. His ears caught every word. Inside, a thought sparked. So Carter's just a kid scrambling to keep his family from falling apart. When Jamal left to grab food, Alex glanced around. No one noticed. He slid a keycard from his pocket, a duplicate he'd charmed off a receptionist with a smile and a tip. The door clicked open. Jamal's battered backpack sat neatly on the desk. Alex unzipped it and pulled out a thick notebook. Page after page of dense formulas, but also messy notes. Brainwaves, temperature thresholds, drug reactions. Alex tilted his head back and chuckled. So, Carter, are you competing in math or medicine? He raised his phone. Snap, snap, snap. Each shot sent his pulse racing, adrenaline spiking. He whispered, firm and cold. Tomorrow, all of this will carry my name. When he closed the book, he hesitated, a darker thought creeping in. What if Carter couldn't find this notebook tomorrow? Then he'd be finished for real. A cruel smile tugged his lips. The door clicked shut softly. The room fell silent again, keeping a secret Jamal didn't know had been stolen. When Jamal returned, fast food bag in hand, a figure was already waiting outside his door. Marcus Thorne. Beside him stood a man in a white coat who looked like a doctor. Marcus drew a long breath, trying for calm. Carter, on the plane I was wrong. I panicked, accused you when I should have thanked you. This is my personal doctor. He can explain more about seizures. I just wanted you to see I understand now. Jamal blocked the doorway, eyes narrowing. So what? Now you bring a doctor to prove you know how to apologize? Too late. Marcus faltered, then pressed on. I also learned about your mother. I know she needs surgery. Thorne Dynamics can cover every expense. Stop! Jamal cut him off, his voice sharp. I don't need pity. You can buy the whole world, but you can't buy my trust. The air between them thickened. Marcus started to say more, but Jamal swiped his keycard. Click, the door unlocked. He stepped in, set the food down, then froze. His backpack wasn't where he had left it. The strap is slightly askew and the zipper is half open. Jamal's body stiffened like he'd been slashed across the back. Marcus frowned. Is something wrong? Jamal didn't answer. He walked slowly, fingertips brushing the strap like touching a live wire. A cold instinct spread through him. Someone had been here. The room was silent, but inside him, a hollow roared. And he knew the worst was yet to come. Jamal lunged for the zipper, ripping it open. His heart clenched. Small notebooks, a few clothes, still there. But the thick notebook, the one where he'd stored every formula and idea for the final round, it was gone. No, this can't be, he whispered, tearing through the main pocket, the side pocket, even the nightstand drawer. Empty. Marcus stood in the doorway, bewildered. He took a step forward, but Jamal looked up, eyes bloodshot, voice hoarse and sharp as a blade. You say you want to help me? Then tell me how. When everything I need for tomorrow has been stolen? He collapsed onto the floor, back against the bed, cold sweat dripping down his face. A brutal truth hammered in his skull. Tomorrow wasn't just another test. Tomorrow was the final round, where he would have to stand before the world and present the one thing that made him different. And now it was gone. Marcus pressed his lips together, wanting to speak, but stayed silent. No words could fill that void. Jamal stared at the empty space where the notebook had been, feeling as if a piece of himself had been ripped away. Tomorrow he would have to walk onto that stage with nothing. Can brilliance be stolen? Or are there some things no one can ever take away? The final day of the International Mathematics Olympiad was about more than numbers on paper. This year, organizers added a new segment, project presentations. Each contestant had to propose a mathematical idea applied to real-world problems. The judges weren't just handing out medals. They were deciding scholarships, research grants, and life-changing opportunities. The hall blazed with light, every seat packed, cameras rolling, the atmosphere so solemn that even a cough sounded like a drumbeat. Alex Vance walked on first, charcoal suit, red tie, every step radiating confidence. He smiled as if the stage belonged to him. On the screen behind, slides appeared, filled with the very formulas and ideas Jamal had lost in his stolen notebook. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex began, his voice steady and commanding. I present to you a groundbreaking mathematical model, using complex systems theory to predict protein variants. He spoke smoothly, rattling off advanced concepts with ease. Judges nodded, reporters scribbled furiously. To everyone watching, he was the picture of a young genius, a star contender. In the audience, Jamal sat frozen, his fists clenched so tight his nails dug deep into his palms. Every fiber in him wanted to leap up and scream, "That's mine!" But when he shifted, one of the judges caught his eye and gave the slightest shake of the head. "Not now, not yet." Jamal swallowed his rage. "Stay calm. This isn't a fight of fists. This is a fight of minds." A few rows ahead, Marcus Thorne stole a glance back at Jamal. For the first time, there was real worry in his eyes. He had seen the boy's despair last night, and now it had turned into a terrifying silence. Alex finished with a triumphant smile. Applause thundered through the hall. But to Jamal, every clap was a hammer blow. Alex had stolen his work. He stole his future, and the world was cheering for the thief. Then came the Q&A. Professor Chen of Caltech, gray-haired and sharp-eyed, leaned forward. "Mr. Vance, an ambitious model. But I notice a logical flaw in equation 7. Applied to a chaotic system, it collapses. How do you explain this?" The hall went still. Alex froze. He had memorized, not understood. He stammered, "Professor, that was an intentional variation to simplify the model." Chen only shook his head. A weak wrong answer. In the crowd, Jamal's eyes lit up. He knew that flaw. He had planted it, a mathematical signature only the creator would recognize. Jamal's panic melted, replaced by cold focus. He couldn't prove it with words. He would prove it with his mind. He didn't need the notebook anymore. Everything that mattered lived inside him. He closed his eyes, drew a long breath. The real game was about to begin. Next contestant, Jamal Carter. Every head turned. Jamal rose, walking to the stage empty-handed. No slides, no notes. Just two bare hands. He picked up a marker and faced the giant whiteboard. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice calm yet carrying across the hall, "I will not present my project." Confusion rippled through the crowd. Alex smirked. "Out of moves already, Carter?" Jamal continued. "Because you've already heard it. Instead, today, I'll present the patched and upgraded version." Then his hand moved. Numbers, symbols poured out like a flood. He started by pinpointing the exact flaw Chen had mentioned. He didn't just explain it, he rewrote the equation, fixing it seamlessly. "This is how it doesn't collapse," he said. And he didn't stop there. "And this is how it becomes stronger." He expanded the model, branching it into an application no one expected, predicting abnormal brainwaves in seizure episodes. "This isn't just abstract theory," Jamal said, passion rising in his voice. "It can be used to warn of epileptic seizures to save lives. The inspiration came from observing chaotic biological systems, like how the human brain reacts to high fever." The hall held its breath. They weren't just watching a presentation. They were watching the birth of a genius. At last, Jamal dropped the marker, turned, and locked eyes with Alex, now pale as paper. "The original model carried a deliberate flaw, a signature I left. Can you tell me where it is and why I placed it there, Alex?" Alex's lips parted, but no sound came. Silence crashed down heavier than any verdict. His muteness was confession enough. Cameras zoomed, the world watching. But in desperation, Alex lunged at his last card. He had to destroy Jamal. "Lies," he shouted, voice cracking. "He's the fraud. He's no math prodigy. He's obsessed with medicine. This is proof!" He held up his phone, projecting the stolen photos onto the big screen. Pages of Jamal's notebook flashed. Scribbles about brainwaves, temperature thresholds, drug reactions. "See, he wasn't studying math. He was hiding something twisted," Alex cried, thinking he had struck the fatal blow. But in truth, he had just pulled the trigger on himself. Jamal stared at the familiar pages, not with fury or panic, but with a sorrow that ran deep. He took the microphone, voice breaking yet firm. "Yes, those are my notes." The hall went silent. "I spent 5 years writing those. Trying to understand my little brother's epilepsy, he died. Because we were too poor, because we didn't reach the hospital in time." A tear slipped down his cheek. "Math to me isn't a game for prizes. It's the only tool I have to find order in chaos, to fight death, to hope that no other child has to leave this world the way my brother did." The confession hit like a tidal wave. What Alex had thrown as evidence of guilt had turned into a story of love, loss, and purpose. In the front row, Marcus Thorne shot to his feet. For the first time, the authority in his voice was gone, replaced with humility and respect. "I can confirm that," Marcus declared, voice trembling. "It was that knowledge. It was this boy who saved my daughter's life on the flight here." After Marcus Thorne's confirmation, the hall erupted. But this time it wasn't applause. It was a storm of gasps, whispers, outrage. Alex Vance stood on stage, face drained white as paper. Every eye turned on him, not as a prodigy, but as a petty thief caught red-handed. "Security, please escort Mr. Vance out," the head judge's voice cut sharply and finally. "This competition has no room for fraud." As two guards stepped forward, Alex staggered back, knees buckling, his carefully crafted confidence shattering to pieces. In contrast, Jamal stood silent, tears still streaking his cheeks. They weren't tears of victory. They were tears for his brother, for years of struggle finally laid bare before the world. Slowly the audience rose, and this time the applause was for him, an applause of respect, empathy, admiration. The chairman stepped up, holding the gleaming gold trophy. "Jamal Carter," his voice thick with emotion, "you have not only won with brilliance, you have won with heart. You are our true champion." In that moment, Jamal pulled out his phone and dialed his mother. He couldn't speak at first, only sob. On the other end, his mother wept too. "Mom," he finally choked out, We did it. It was a victory of talent, persistence, and love stronger than any barrier." That evening, in a private lounge, Marcus Thorne met Jamal. No billionaire, no poor boy, just a man trying to make amends and a young fighter who had proven his worth. "Jamal," Marcus began, his voice stripped of arrogance, only sincerity left. "My doctor has already contacted a hospital in Chicago. Your mother's surgery will be handled by the best team. I'll cover every cost." He slid a thick folder across the table. "But I want more than that. This is the proposal for the Carter Research Foundation under Thorne Dynamics. You will lead it. Unlimited budget, full authority over projects. Use your mind to bring math into medicine, education, so no child ever suffers what your brother did." This wasn't just an offer. It was a chance to change the world, a dream Jamal had never dared imagine. Jamal looked at the contract, then into Marcus's eyes. Gratitude flickered there, hesitation, and an old wound that refused to close. The silence stretched heavy. He did not say thank you. He did not say no. Instead, he asked one question, calm yet cutting straight through Marcus's chest. "Mr. Thorne, I want to ask you something." "Go ahead," Marcus said, hope glimmering. Jamal's voice was steady, almost cold. "If on that flight your daughter hadn't been seizing, if she had only been crying nonstop, and I, a black teenager from the economy, stepped forward and offered to help, would you have let me touch her?" Marcus froze. The room itself seemed to stop breathing. That question wasn't about kindness, it was about prejudice. Marcus wanted to say yes, but his throat closed. He couldn't lie. Not to this boy, not now. His silence was the answer, and they both knew that the answer was no. Jamal gave a small nod, a faint, sorrowful smile crossing his lips. He gently pushed the contract back. "When you truly have an answer to that question, call me." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Marcus Thorne alone, with his empire, with his blank check, and with a question that would haunt him forever. Jamal's greatest victory wasn't the gold trophy. It was forcing the world to confront its own raw truth. In a hall blazing with light, he had chosen not to sell his dignity, even with a future-changing contract before him. And so the question remains for all of us. If it were you, would you sign that contract? Or would you walk away too? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Talk Story so you won't miss the next story that speaks straight to the heart.